Master Wordlist. Words starting with letter N. Nadir means lowest point. For example, although few people realized it, the Dow Jones averages had reached their nadir and would soon begin an upward surge. Naivete means quality of being unsophisticated. For example, touched by the naivete of sweet, convent-trained Cosette, Marius pledges himself to protect her innocence. Narcissist means someone in love with his own image. For example, a narcissist is her own best friend. Narrative means related to telling a story. For example, a born teller of tales, Tilly Olsen used her impressive narrative skills to advantage in her story I Stand Here Ironing. Nascent means coming into being. For example, if we could identify these revolutionary movements in their nascent state, we would be able to eliminate serious trouble in later years. Natty means neatly or smartly dressed. For example, priding himself on being a natty dresser, the gangster Bugsy Siegel collected a wardrobe of imported suits and ties. Nauseate means cause to become sick. For example, the foul smells began to nauseate him. Nautical means pertaining to ships or navigation. For example, the Maritime Museum contains many models of clipper ships, logbooks, anchors and many other items of a nautical nature. Navigable means wide and deep enough to allow ships to pass through. For example, so much sand had built up at the bottom of the canal that the waterway was barely navigable. Nebulous means vague, cloudy. For example, after 20 years, she had only a nebulous memory of her grandmother's face. Necromancy means black magic, dealings with the dead. For example, the evil sorcerer performed feats of necromancy, calling on the spirits of the dead to tell the future. Nefarious means very wicked. For example, the villain's crimes, though various, were one and all nefarious. Negate means cancel out, nullify. For example, a sudden surge of adrenaline can negate the effects of fatigue. There's nothing like a good shock to wake you up. Negligence means neglect. For example, Tommy failed to put back the cover on the well after he fetched his pail of water. Because of his negligence, Kitty fell in. Negligible means so small or unimportant. For example, because the damage to his car had been negligible, Michael decided he wouldn't bother to report the matter to his insurance company. Nemesis means someone seeking revenge. For example, abandoned at sea in a small boat, the vengeful Captain Blythe vowed to be the nemesis of Fletcher Christian and his fellow mutineers. Neologism means newly coined word. For example, as we invent new techniques and professions, we must also invent neologisms such as microcomputer and astronaut to describe them. Neophyte means recent convert, beginner. For example, this mountain slope contains slides that will challenge experts as well as neophytes. Nepotism means favoritism. For example, John left his position with the company because he felt that advancement was based on nepotism rather than ability. Nettle means annoy. For example, do not let him nettle you with his sarcastic remarks. Neutral means impartial. For example, reluctant to get mixed up in someone else's quarrel, Bobby tried to remain neutral, but eventually he had to take sides. Nicety means precision, distinction. For example, I cannot distinguish between such niceties of reasoning. Nihilist means absolute skeptic. For example, in his final days, Hitler revealed himself a power-mad nihilist, ready to annihilate all of Western Europe, even to destroy Germany itself. Nip means stop something's growth or development. For example, the twins were plotting mischief, but Mother intervened and nipped that plan in the bud. Nirvana means Buddhist teachings, the ideal state in which the individual loses himself. For example, despite his desire to achieve nirvana, the young Buddhist found that even the buzzing of a fly could distract him from his meditation. Nocturnal means done at night. For example, Mr. Jones obtained a watchdog to prevent the nocturnal raids on his chicken coops. Noisome means foul-smelling. For example, the noisome atmosphere downwind of the oil refinery not only stank, it damaged the lungs of everyone living in the area. Nomadic means wandering. For example, several nomadic tribes of Indians would hunt in this area each year. Nomenclature means terminology, system of names. For example, Sharon found Latin word parts useful in translating medical nomenclature. Nominal means in name only. For example, he offered to drive her to the airport for only a nominal fee. Nonchalance means indifference, lack of concern. For example, cool, calm, and collected under fire, James Bond shows remarkable nonchalance in the face of danger. Noncommittal means neutral, undecided. For example, we were annoyed by his non-committal reply, for we had been led to expect definite assurances of his approval. Nondescript means undistinctive, ordinary. For example, the private detective was a short, nondescript fellow with no outstanding features, the sort of person one would never notice in a crowd. Nonentity means person of no importance. For example, because the two older princes dismissed their youngest brother as a nonentity, they did not realize that he was quietly plotting to seize the throne. Nonplus means bring to halt by confusion. For example, Jack's uncharacteristic rudeness nonplussed Jill, leaving her uncertain how to react. Nostalgia means homesickness. For example, my grandfather seldom spoke of life in the old country. He had little patience with nostalgia. Notable means conspicuous, important. For example, normally notable for his calm in the kitchen, today the head cook was shaking, for the notable chef, Julia Child, was coming to dinner. Notoriety means disrepute, ill fame. For example, to the starlet, any publicity was good publicity. If she couldn't have a good reputation, she'd settle for notoriety. Novelty means something new. For example, the computer is no longer a novelty at work. Every desk in our office has one. Novice means beginner. For example, even a novice at working with computers can install Barron's computer study program for the SAT by following the easy steps outlined in the user's manual. Noxious means harmful. For example, we must trace the source of these noxious gases before they asphyxiate us. Nuance means shade of difference in meaning. For example, Jody gazed at the Monet landscape for an hour, appreciating every subtle nuance of color in the painting. Nullify means to make invalid. For example, once the contract was nullified, it no longer had any legal force. Numismatist means person who collects coins. For example, the numismatist had a splendid collection of antique coins. Nuptial means related to marriage. For example, reluctant to be married in a traditional setting, they decided to hold their nuptial ceremony at the Carousel in Golden Gate Park. Nurture means nourish, educate, foster. For example, the Head Start program attempts to nurture pre-kindergarten children so that they will do well when they enter public school. Nutrient means nourishing substance. For example, as a budding nutritionist, Kim has learned to design diets that contain foods rich in important basic nutrients. End of the word list with words starting with letter N.